Hi, Dr. P here to answer a question that's come up several times lately, and that is how important in wartime is holding on to your capital? Or to put it another way, will a nation surrender when it loses its capital? Think about it. An inviting victory objective in games is the enemy capital. Games like Axis and Allies use capitals as the victory locations. But different nations react in different ways to losing their capital. What about the European nations? Well, the French tend to throw in the towel when they lose Paris, both in 1871 against the Prussians and in 1940 against the Germans. What about 1814? Well, Napoleon was being defeated no matter what, and when he lost the Battle of Waterloo in 1815 in his second try, nobody waited until Paris fell. Napoleon had it, and he tried to flee and was captured. Okay, what about the Russians? Moscow was occupied by Napoleon for weeks in 1812, and then they abandoned it. And in the meantime, the Russians fought on. In 1941, the Germans thought occupying Moscow would finish the Soviet Union. Yes, it was also a big transportation hub, but I still don't see them giving up. The Germans themselves don't seem heavily wedded, so to speak, to their capital. I can't see Americans, descended from Europeans, giving up if Washington is lost, but it is a big country. And we have to say that during the War of 1812, the United States didn't give up when Washington was burned by the British. What about China, another really huge country? China lost its capital many times, even to raiding Tibetans. But it also had more than one capital sometimes, and the capital changed. Beijing became the capital only a few centuries ago, when it was still near the northern border of China. The traditional capitals, there is more than one, are on the North China Plain, but there were other capitals, for example, when the Mongols held northern China, and the Chinese still held southern China. What about other places? When Mexico City fell versus the Spaniards, I think the Aztecs gave up, but I don't know enough about it in great detail. I know the Incas did not give up. They fought on after they lost their capital, but they also had the problem that they'd lost their leader, and they had lots of problems. What about India, a vast place? All I can say is I don't recall hearing that someone gave up when their capital was lost in India. Possible candidates would be Delhi and the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughals. What about ancient times? The Persians sometimes lost their capital, but that didn't seem to cause them to give up. The Assyrians lost Nineveh, and they fought on until they were defeated again later on. What about Babylon? Well, Babylonia certainly is central to the empire of Babylon, but we don't really know. In general, the ancients were less likely to give up if they lost their capital, unless the nation was a city-state and they lost their city, of course. Rome itself was sacked in 410 and 455, and the empire nominally continued. Of course, by 455, and probably a lot earlier, Milan was the administrative capital, even though Rome was regarded as the heart of the Roman Empire. Constantinople, the Byzantine Empire, or East Roman Empire, was sacked in 1204 by Crusaders, but the empire continued, and they finally retook it after 61 years, as I recall. When Constantinople finally fell to the Ottomans in 1453, that was all there was of the Byzantine Empire, just the city, so it was gone. So my verdict is, loss of the capital may be more or less important, but rarely important enough to cause surrender. Thanks for listening.